You spend a third of your life asleep. If you live to 80, that's 27 years with your eyes closed. And do you actually know what your brain is doing for all of it? Resting? No. Your brain at night is more active than it is during your busiest meeting of the day. It's deleting memories, rewriting others, flushing out toxins, and making decisions for tomorrow before you've even woken up. Sleep is not rest. Sleep is an operation being performed on you without your awareness. And here's what makes this genuinely unsettling. We spent most of human history completely wrong about why we sleep. The intuitive answer, the one that feels obvious, is that sleep exists so the body can recover. Muscles repair, energy restores, the brain quiets down. That picture isn't just incomplete, it's almost the reverse of what's actually happening. The brain during sleep isn't quiet. It's running some of the most complex, most critical operations it performs in any 24-hour period. What we call rest is the brain shifting into a different and in some ways more demanding mode of work. Understanding what that work actually is changes how you think about every single night you've ever slept and every night you haven't. Let's start with the part of the story that's newest, because it involves a discovery so fundamental that it rewrote an entire field of neuroscience, and most people still haven't heard of it. For most of the 20th century, researchers assumed the brain didn't have a waste clearance system. The rest of the body has the lymphatic system, a network of vessels that drains metabolic byproducts away from tissues and into the bloodstream. The brain, for reasons of architecture and blood-brain barrier complexity, was thought to lack an equivalent. Waste just accumulated, or was processed locally. The mechanism wasn't well understood, but the assumption was that it didn't involve active flushing the way the rest of the body worked. In 2012, a neuroscientist named Maiken Nedergaard and her team at the University of Rochester discovered they were wrong. The brain has its own waste clearance system. It's called the glymphatic system, named because it uses glial cells, the brain's support cells, the way the rest of the body uses lymphatic vessels. And in 2024, scientists produced the first direct imaging evidence of this system operating in living human beings, confirming what had previously only been shown in mice. The mechanism is extraordinary. During deep sleep, the cells of the brain actually shrink. They physically contract by roughly 60%. This expansion of the space between cells allows cerebrospinal fluid to flow through the brain tissue in a rhythmic pulse, sweeping out metabolic waste products that have accumulated during the day. Proteins like beta amyloid and tau, the same proteins that build up in the brains of Alzheimer's patients, get flushed out of the tissue and carried away. The implications of this are staggering. In 2018, researchers showed that just one night of sleep deprivation causes a measurable accumulation of beta amyloid in the human brain, detectable on a PET scan the morning after a single bad night. One night. This is not a long-term effect of chronic sleep deprivation. This is what happens to your brain chemistry after you stay up too late one time. The toxic protein starts to accumulate within hours of missed sleep. And here's the detail that makes this even more alarming. The glymphatic system operates at a fraction of its capacity when you're awake. The flushing mechanism, the physical shrinkage of brain cells that allows the cerebrospinal fluid to flow, is largely dependent on the specific brain states that occur during deep sleep. You cannot replicate it by lying quietly in the dark. You cannot approximate it with meditation or rest. The system requires the brain to be in specific stages of sleep to operate efficiently, which means every hour of sleep you miss is an hour during which the waste keeps accumulating and the cleaning crew never shows up. A study published in the journal Cell in January 2025 identified the specific mechanism driving this system. During NREM sleep, the deep, non-dreaming phase, the brain produces slow oscillations in the chemical norepinephrine. These oscillations happen at a frequency of about 0.02 Hz, meaning the norepinephrine levels rise and fall roughly once every 50 seconds. And these fluctuations drive a synchronized rhythm of expansion and contraction in the brain's blood vessels, what researchers call vasomotion, which in turn pumps the cerebrospinal fluid through the tissue in rhythmic waves. It is, in a biological sense, a pump. Your brain, during deep sleep, is physically pumping its own cleaning fluid through itself. The same study found something with immediate practical implications. Zolpidem, the sleep medication sold as Ambien, suppresses these norepinephrine oscillations. Sleeping pills help you fall asleep, but they may impair the very mechanism that makes sleep restorative. People taking sleeping pills may be getting the unconsciousness without getting the cleaning. Now let's talk about memory, because this is the part that changes how you think about every experience you've had. During the day, as you learn and experience things, your hippocampus, the brain's short-term memory hub, encodes new information. It holds the fresh experiences, the conversation you had, the fact you read, the route you took. But the hippocampus is not a long-term storage system. It's more like a temporary clipboard. Actual long-term memories live in the cortex, distributed across vast networks of connected neurons. And the transfer, the process of moving information from hippocampus to cortex, of consolidating temporary experience into lasting memory, happens primarily during sleep. Here's how it works mechanically. During NREM sleep, the hippocampus replays the day's experiences at high speed, literally replays them, firing the same sequences of neural activity that were produced when the experience originally happened, but compressed in time. These hippocampal replays are called sharp wave ripples, and they coordinate with two other brain rhythms, sleep spindles and slow oscillations, in a precisely timed sequence. The coordination of these three rhythms is what allows the hippocampus to transfer information to the cortex and embed it in long-term storage. Disrupt the timing of any one of those rhythms and the transfer fails. The memory doesn't consolidate. What felt like a clear and retrievable experience the evening before becomes hazy or inaccessible by the next morning. Not because the memory was lost during the night, but because it was never successfully written into long-term storage during it. But here's the part that should make you think carefully about what sleep is actually doing to your memory, because it isn't just passively copying experiences across. The brain during sleep doesn't consolidate everything equally. It selects. It prioritizes emotionally significant material. It strengthens connections that seem important and weakens connections that seem redundant. It is, in a very real sense, editing your memory of the day. The version of events you wake up with in the morning is not a faithful copy of what you experienced. It has been curated, amplified in some places, and quietly erased in others by processes you had no conscious access to. Sleep is not a neutral preservation of your experiences. It is an active editorial process, running without your supervision, deciding which parts of your day are worth keeping. This editing extends to emotional memory in a specific and consequential way. REM sleep, the dreaming phase, appears to be particularly important for processing emotional experiences. During REM sleep, the prefrontal cortex, which normally regulates and moderates emotional responses, dramatically reduces its activity. The amygdala, the brain's emotional processing center, remains active. The result is that emotional memories are replayed and processed during REM sleep in the absence of the brain's normal emotional governor. The neurologist Matthew Walker, who has written extensively on sleep science, has described REM sleep as overnight therapy, a neurological state in which the brain can revisit emotionally charged experiences and reduce their acute sting without the full cortical activation that makes the memory painful to access during wakefulness. This is why a bad experience often feels less raw the morning after you've slept than it did the night you had it. And it's why sleep deprivation specifically disrupts emotional regulation. Without the REM processing cycle, the emotional weight of experiences doesn't get properly metabolized. Sleep-deprived people aren't just tired. Their emotional responses to events are measurably more extreme. Their ability to contextualize threat is impaired, and their capacity for empathy is reduced. Wait, and this is the detail that almost nobody considers. Sleep doesn't just process memories from the day, it also deletes some of them. The synaptic homeostasis hypothesis, proposed by neuroscientists Giulio Tononi and Chiara Cirelli, argues that during wakefulness, synapses, the connections between neurons, are constantly being strengthened as new information comes in. This is good for learning, but it has a cost. Stronger synapses require more energy to maintain, and if every synapse in the brain kept strengthening indefinitely, the system would become energetically unsustainable and effectively saturated, too full of signal to function properly. The hypothesis argues that deep sleep serves as the reset mechanism. During slow-wave sleep, synaptic strength is systematically reduced, not eliminated, but trimmed back toward baseline. The information that was newly encoded is retained, but the system is cleared of the accumulated noise of a full day's stimulation. You wake up not just rested, but literally recalibrated, with a nervous system that has been returned to a state capable of learning again. This has a direct and measurable consequence for every decision you make. Sleep deprivation doesn't just make you tired, it specifically impairs the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for rational planning, impulse control, and evaluating long-term consequences versus short-term rewards. Studies have shown that after 17 hours of wakefulness, a normal late evening, cognitive performance declines to a level equivalent to having a blood alcohol content of 0.05%. After 24 hours without sleep, the equivalent is 0.1%. Legally drunk in most jurisdictions, by the measure of impaired judgment and reaction time. And here is the devastating irony. Sleep-deprived people consistently underestimate how impaired they are. The same brain degradation that reduces your cognitive capacity also reduces your ability to accurately assess your own cognitive capacity. You feel more confident in your judgment precisely when your judgment is most impaired. There is also something happening during sleep that doesn't fit neatly into any single category. It's the brain doing something that looks, from the outside, like problem solving. There is substantial evidence that the sleeping brain continues to work on problems that were left unresolved during the day. During REM sleep, in particular, the brain forms novel associations, connections between ideas and concepts that weren't explicitly linked during waking thought. This is likely the neurological basis of the old observation that sleeping on a problem produces insight. It isn't metaphor. The brain, freed from the linear, focused attention of wakefulness, operates in a more associative mode during sleep, drawing connections across distant memories and concepts that the directed attention of the day had kept separate. The phrase, "let me sleep on it," is, in the most literal neuroscientific sense, sound advice. Here's the historical context that puts all of this in perspective. For most of scientific history, sleep was considered a passive state, a default that the brain fell into when it stopped doing anything. The electroencephalogram, invented in the 1920s, showed that the sleeping brain was electrically active, which was surprising. But the assumption remained that sleep was primarily a restorative pause, a time when the body recovered from the exertions of wakefulness. The discovery of REM sleep in 1953 by Nathaniel Kleitman and his student Eugene Azarinsky was the first crack in this picture. They found that sleep was not uniform, that the brain passed through distinct cycles throughout the night, with periods of extraordinary electrical activity punctuated by the rapid eye movements that gave REM its name. The sleepers in REM were not resting, they were dreaming, and the brain activity during those dreams was indistinguishable, in many respects, from the activity of an awake and alert brain. It took another 60 years for the glymphatic system to be discovered, and it's worth sitting with that gap. The fact that we've been sleeping every night of our lives without knowing that our brains were physically pumping cleaning fluid through themselves, flushing out the day's toxic byproducts, resetting the system for the next round. We've been living inside this process without any awareness of it, the way you live inside your heartbeat without normally noticing it. The difference is that heartbeat research is not a new field. Sleep research, in its deepest and most consequential aspects, is. What does this mean practically? Several things. First, the quality of your sleep matters in ways that aren't captured by counting hours. Deep NREM sleep, the stage during which the glymphatic system operates and memory consolidation occurs, requires specific conditions to produce. Alcohol, even in moderate quantities, suppresses slow-wave sleep. Sleeping pills, as noted, may suppress the norepinephrine oscillations that drive glymphatic clearance. Temperature matters. The brain drops its core temperature during sleep, and environmental temperatures that prevent this drop can disrupt deep sleep architecture. The timing of sleep in relation to your circadian rhythm matters. You can spend 8 hours in bed and still shortchange yourself on the deep sleep stages if the conditions aren't right. Second, the chronic low-grade sleep deprivation that defines modern life, consistently getting 6 hours instead of 8, sleeping at irregular times, using screens before bed, is not a minor inconvenience. Based on what we now know about the glymphatic system, it is the systematic impairment of the brain's ability to clear toxic waste every single night for years. The long-term implications of that chronic impairment are still being studied, but the correlation between poor sleep and neurodegenerative disease, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, is increasingly difficult to dismiss as coincidence. The proteins that accumulate in these diseases are the same proteins that the glymphatic system is tasked with clearing. The connection is not proven to be causal, but it is deep and consistent and growing harder to explain away. And third, and this is perhaps the most important reframe, the decisions you make about sleep are not decisions about rest. They're decisions about what you're willing to let your brain do tonight while you're not watching. The consolidation of today's learning, the processing of today's emotional experiences, the editing and filing of today's memories, the cleaning of today's neural waste. All of that happens while you're unconscious, in a biological operation of extraordinary complexity that you cannot replicate, cannot rush, and cannot outsource. The third of your life you spend asleep is not time lost from living. It is the maintenance interval that makes all the other time functional. Without it, the machine runs hotter and breaks faster. This isn't a metaphor about willpower or discipline. It's a description of what neurons do when the lights go out. So the next time you decide to stay up late, or dismiss the value of an early night, or reach for the sleeping pill, you're not just deciding about rest. You're deciding whether tonight is the night the cleaning crew gets to do its job, whether the memories from today get properly filed or partially lost, whether the emotional weight of the week gets processed or keeps accumulating. The brain doesn't stop when you sleep. It starts doing the work that can only be done in the dark. If this changes how you think about tonight, subscribe. There's more. See you in the next one.